She returned the wrong coat after a date. But the billionaire CEO found a love letter in the pocket and fell in love. She only wanted to forget one man, but a letter meant for no one changed everything. Maya Alvarez had written the kind of letter you never send, raw, broken, and honest. She folded it into the lining of her coat and tried to forget it existed. But when she accidentally swapped coats with a stranger after a date, that letter fell into the hands of the last person she expected, a billionaire CEO with a heart locked behind years of silence. And the moment he read her words, he couldn't forget her, not even if he wanted to. Before we continue, if you enjoy touching and inspiring stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's get back to the story. Maya Alvarez didn't believe in happy endings anymore. That rainy night, she'd promised herself she'd only stay at the speed dating event for 15 minutes, just long enough to prove her best friend wrong, the one who kept saying, "You need to put yourself back out there, even if it's just to remember life still exists." Life, for Maya, had been quiet. Too quiet. She used to be engaged, almost married. Until 9 months ago, her fiancé left her with nothing more than a brief note, a returned ring, and silence that never explained itself. And now, here she was, standing in a trendy restaurant that didn't feel like her, surrounded by forced smiles, awkward questions about hobbies, and men who still thought talking about their gym routines was attractive. She didn't want to be there. But she also didn't want to be stuck. By the end of the evening, Maya grabbed her trench coat, the same olive one she always wore, and hurried out into the drizzle. She didn't realize she had picked up the wrong one. Inside the pocket of her real coat, however, was something personal. A letter, not meant for anyone's eyes. She'd written it a few days ago in a moment of loneliness, more to get the words out of her chest than to send it to anyone. It was raw, emotional, and honest. The kind of letter you write just to survive your feelings. But in the rush of the evening, she had left it tucked into the inside pocket, completely forgotten. On the other side of the city, Daniel Grayson, CEO of Grayson Enterprises, also left the event early, though he hadn't attended as a participant. He was only there to pick up his younger sister, who insisted on trying something spontaneous. Daniel hated these environments. Too loud, too fake, too much small talk. As he took a call while exiting, he grabbed a coat from the rack, one that wasn't his, fitted, faintly floral, and definitely not made for him. He didn't notice until he got home. He threw it over a chair and sat down to finish reading through some documents. But when he stood to turn out the lights, a folded piece of paper slipped from the pocket and landed at his feet. He picked it up casually, then opened it, and read, "I wonder sometimes if you remember my name when you wake up, or if you just feel relief that you didn't have to look me in the eye again. I would have stayed, I would have waited, but you ran. And now I'm here writing to someone who probably won't ever read this, just because my heart won't stop speaking, even when my mouth has gone quiet." Daniel stopped. The handwriting was clean, confident, but trembling at the edges. He read it again, slower, then a third time. "You ran, and now I'm here writing to someone who probably won't ever read this." He sat down again, the letter still in his hand. There was no signature, no name, just pain. Beautifully worded, painfully real, and something about it, about her, unsettled him. The next morning, Maya froze when she spotted the coat hanging over her chair. It wasn't hers. It was heavier, more structured. It smelled like cedar and leather, expensive. She grabbed her phone in panic and called the restaurant. No answer. Then she remembered. The letter. Oh no. She emailed the event organizer immediately. "Hi, I believe I took the wrong coat last night. The one I had was light gray, floral lining. But more importantly, there was something personal in the pocket. A letter. It wasn't meant to be read. If you find out who has it, please let me know. It's important." She didn't sleep that night. Daniel, on the other hand, couldn't stop thinking about what he had read. He, a man who read contracts, board memos, market forecasts, had reread A Stranger's Letter 5 times. 6, maybe more. It felt wrong, but it also felt impossible to forget. It didn't sound like something meant to be discarded. It sounded like something that needed to be heard. During his lunch break the next day, his assistant walked in, phone in hand. "Mr. Grayson, we received an email from a woman, Maya Alvarez. She says she might have your coat, and that you might have hers." Daniel looked up slowly. "Maya," he repeated, almost to himself. The name settled in his mind. "She says there's something personal in the pocket. She's asking for it back." Daniel glanced toward the letter, still resting on his desk like a secret, then back at his assistant. "Reply that I'd like to return it in person," he said quietly. "Ask her if she's available at 5. The assistant blinked. "Sir, that's unusual." "I know." He didn't smile, but something in his voice was softer than it had been in years. Why did a stranger's letter shake a man like Daniel Grayson? And what will Maya do when she finds out he read the words she never meant anyone to see? At exactly 4:59 p.m., a sleek black car pulled up to the curb outside Maya's apartment building. She hesitated. She'd only agreed to meet because the assistant had said the man, Daniel Grayson, wanted to return the coat personally. Maya had no idea who he was until she Googled him after seeing the signature in the email, CEO, Grayson Enterprises. That wasn't the kind of person who got involved in coat mix-ups. That was the kind of person who had people to deal with things like that, which meant he must have read the letter. Her heart thudded against her ribs. She clutched her coat tight and stepped into the car. When the elevator doors opened on the top floor of the Grayson Enterprises tower, she almost turned around and walked away. The office looked like something out of a movie. Glass, marble, and quiet luxury. The kind of place where people didn't speak unless spoken to. But then she saw him, standing near the floor-to-ceiling windows again, just like before. Back straight, arms crossed, lost in thought. He turned when he heard her steps, and their eyes met. Daniel Grayson wasn't intimidating the way she expected. He wasn't flashy or cold. He just looked tired, like someone who hadn't rested in years even if he slept every night. "Maya," he said slowly, "thank you for coming." She nodded, unsure what to do with her hands. "I think I have your coat. And I think I have yours." He motioned to a hanger near the door. Her coat was there, looking oddly fragile in the pristine room. She stepped forward to retrieve it. "Thank you. I didn't realize we'd switched until the next day." He studied her as she spoke. She avoided his eyes. He didn't move, just said quietly, "I read it." Maya froze. Of course he had. Why else would she be standing in the office of a billionaire? She turned slowly. "You weren't supposed to." "I know." Silence stretched between them like a thread pulled tight. "I didn't mean for anyone to see it," she said, voice smaller now. "I wrote it to get it out of my system. It wasn't even for him. Really. More like, for myself." "I understand." His voice was low but calm, not judging, just listening. "You probably think I'm insane," she said with an awkward laugh. "Writing dramatic letters and carrying them around in my coat like a Jane Austen character." Daniel's lips curved slightly. Not a smile, but close. It wasn't dramatic. It was honest. She looked up at him now. "And you? Why meet me in person?" He hesitated, as if the truth wasn't something he gave away easily. Then, "Because I haven't felt something reading words in a long time." Maya blinked. "I deal with numbers, contracts, people who want things. Your letter didn't want anything," he continued. "It just said something, and I realized I missed that kind of truth." Maya didn't know how to respond. She hadn't expected this, not from him, not from anyone. "You reminded me what regret sounds like," he added. And how much of it I've been carrying." A soft ache spread in her chest. "It was never meant to find anyone," she said again, though her voice wavered. "I know," he said, "but I think I was meant to find it." She sat down across from him without being asked, as if her legs needed the chair more than her pride needed the exit. "I thought love letters were outdated," she said, "or maybe just pathetic." "They are," he said, "but that one wasn't." Her cheeks warmed. "Why did it affect you so much?" He hesitated again, then answered carefully, "Because I left someone once, not in the same way. But I know what it feels like to be the one who runs, and I always wondered what she would have said to me, if she ever did." Maya looked at him, really looked this time. He wasn't a headline or a suit. He was a man with wounds just as hidden as hers. "Did you ever reach out again?" she asked softly. "No," he said. "By the time I wanted to, I thought it would do more harm than good." They both sat there, surrounded by silence that didn't feel awkward anymore, just heavy, real. Maya stood up slowly, smoothing her dress. "Well," she said, voice gentle, "thank you for being kind, and for giving this back." She picked up her coat. Their eyes met again. "Can I ask you something?" Daniel said. "Of course." "Have you ever written something just for yourself, and still hoped someone would read it?" Her lips parted. She didn't speak right away. "Yes," she whispered. He nodded, as if that answer confirmed something he'd already felt. As she walked out of the office, Maya realized she was shaking. Not because she was embarrassed, but because for the first time in a long time she felt seen, not pitied, not humored, not just seen. And Daniel? He watched the door long after it closed, the letter still sitting quietly in the drawer behind him. It wasn't addressed to him, but it had still opened something inside him, and for the first time in years, he didn't want to close it. Was it really just a letter, or the beginning of something neither of them expected? 3 days passed. Maya had almost convinced herself it was over. That strange, accidental connection with Daniel Grayson, billionaire CEO and unexpected reader of her most vulnerable words, must have been a fleeting glitch in an otherwise normal life. And honestly, that's what she told herself she wanted. Normal. She went back to work, taught her literature classes like usual, and even smiled at her students' questions about Jane Eyre and Gatsby. But something kept tugging at her mind. Not the fact that Daniel had read her letter, but how he'd looked at her after. Like he saw something worth staying for. It was a quiet Wednesday evening when her phone buzzed. Private number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" "Maya." His voice was unmistakable. She sat down immediately. "Daniel? I hope it's not too late to call." "It's unexpected," she said truthfully, "but not unwelcome." There was a pause, then a small sigh of relief on his end. "I was wondering," he said, "if you'd let me take you to dinner. No pressure, just a conversation not limited to office walls or coat pockets." Maya's pulse quickened. "Why?" she asked. "I mean, we barely know each other." "I know," he said, "but I keep thinking about what you wrote, and I realized I'd like to know the woman behind that kind of honesty." She bit her bottom lip. Part of her wanted to say no, to protect herself, to close that chapter and file it under strange moments that don't need sequels. But another part of her, the one that hadn't been truly seen in over a year, whispered, "Say yes." "All right," she said, "but I picked the place." He smiled on the other end. She could hear it. "Deal." The next night she took him to a tiny Italian restaurant tucked between a florist and a laundromat in the East End. It was dimly lit with real candles and handwritten menus. Far from Daniel's world of polished steel and high-rise glass, he arrived 5 minutes early. No driver, no entourage. Just him, in a charcoal sweater and coat that didn't scream money, only warmth. "You like places like this?" he asked as they sat. "Places where the waiter remembers your name?" "Yeah, I like that." He nodded, taking it in. I haven't been somewhere like this in a long time. They ordered pasta, shared bread, talked about nothing at first, weather, music, the fact that he once tried to make pancakes and set off a hotel fire alarm in Zurich. Maya laughed, genuinely. Then the conversation turned quieter. Do you ever write anymore? He asked. I journal, she admitted. And sometimes I write letters I never send. He tilted his head. Ah, to your ex? No, not anymore. I think I'm done writing to people who stopped listening. Daniel looked at her, and for a second it seemed like he was seeing her again through the lens of that letter, and something in his expression changed. I left someone once, he said, voice low, not because I stopped loving her, but because I didn't know how to stay. She wanted me to choose her over everything else, and I was too proud, too busy being important. Maya didn't interrupt. She let the silence carry his words. I thought success would fill the spaces she left. It didn't. She met his gaze. Do you regret it? He didn't answer right away. I regret not having the courage to be soft when it mattered most. The air between them softened. Neither of them said it, but something unspoken passed across the table. A shared understanding. Two people carrying different kinds of heartbreak and recognizing the same silence in each other. When they finished dinner, he insisted on walking her to her car. I never do this, he admitted as they reached the sidewalk. This whole vulnerable thing. She smiled. You're doing all right. As she opened the door, he stopped her gently. Maya, I don't know where this is going, but I'd like to find out. Her breath caught. She wanted to say something poetic, something smart, but all she could manage was, me too. He smiled then, a real one this time. And as he watched her drive off, he realized something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. But hope, as beautiful as it is, doesn't erase the past. And the past wasn't done with either of them. As something new begins to bloom, what part of Daniel's past is about to resurface? And how will Maya react when she finds out she wasn't the only woman he couldn't forget? 2 weeks passed, and for the first time in nearly a year, Maya didn't feel like she was surviving. She felt present. Daniel Grayson had a way of listening without interrupting, of noticing things no one else did, like how she stirred her coffee twice before sipping, or how she tilted her head slightly when she was about to challenge him. They'd met for coffee, walked in the park, talked late into the night, sometimes without touching anything deeper than memories and music, but something unspoken lived between them. Not tension, more like hesitation, as if both of them were walking carefully across a bridge they didn't fully trust yet. One evening they met at a quiet wine bar. Maya wore a soft blue sweater and no makeup. Daniel arrived in a dark coat, his usual quiet elegance intact. He looked tired, though, not the kind of tired that sleep could fix. She asked him about his day. He gave her half answers. So she asked again. You're distant tonight. Is everything okay? He hesitated. Then, there's something I haven't told you about someone from my past. Maya sat up straighter. A woman? She asked gently. He nodded. It ended a long time ago, but not cleanly. What does that mean? Daniel stared into his glass. I left her without saying goodbye. I thought I was protecting her from who I was becoming. But I didn't protect her. I just disappeared, and she never got to ask why. Maya felt her throat tighten. You've tried to contact her? No, he said quietly. I never had the courage, or the excuse, until... He didn't finish the sentence, but Maya already knew the end of it. Until he met me. Later that night, Maya lay awake replaying everything in her head. She didn't know why it bothered her. After all, everyone has a past. She had one too, but something about how he spoke of that woman, the unfinished grief, the lingering guilt, made it clear. She wasn't just anyone, and Maya wasn't sure she wanted to be a second act. The next day, her friend Clara, the one who dragged her to the speed dating event, called out of the blue. You're not going to believe this. Clara said, her voice buzzing with gossip. "Remember the billionaire you accidentally switched coats with?" "You mean the one I've been sort of seeing?" Clara squealed. "You're seeing him?" "Wait, we'll talk about that in a second. First, I just saw something weird." "What?" Some business blog posted an article. Apparently, years ago, Daniel Grayson was engaged, very privately. No press photos, no announcement. But the girl's name leaked. Isabel Cortez. There's speculation it ended badly. Maya's breath caught. Isabel. She felt the name slice through the air like a cold wind. "You okay?" Clara asked. Yeah. Thanks." But Maya wasn't okay, because for the first time since this strange story began, since a lost coat and a found letter, she felt something she hadn't expected to feel again. Insecurity. That night, Maya sat across from Daniel on his terrace. The city lights shimmered behind them, and his hand was resting beside hers on the table. "Can I ask you something?" she said softly. He nodded. Was her name Isabel? The silence that followed said more than any words could. "Yes," he said finally. Maya swallowed. "Are you over her?" Daniel closed his eyes. "I thought I was. Then you came along. And I realized, I'm not over what I did to her, but I don't miss her the way I thought I would." Maya's eyes burned. "You say the right things," she whispered. "You look at me like I'm the first person you've really seen in years, but I don't want to be a distraction from your guilt. I want to be real, chosen." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You are." "Then tell me something you've never told anyone," she challenged, voice trembling. He looked straight at her. "I kept a photo of her," he said, "in my office, for 3 years. Even after I started telling myself I didn't care, I couldn't throw it away. And the day I did was the same day I found your letter." Maya's chest rose and fell. She didn't know what to say, but she knew what she felt, confused, scared, and maybe starting to fall for a man who was still haunted by a name she didn't carry. When she left that night, she didn't kiss him. She didn't cry either, but she walked a little slower, as if part of her was already wondering if it had all been a beautiful mistake. Will Maya walk away before Daniel can prove he's ready for something real? Or will the ghost of Isabel destroy something just beginning to bloom? The next few days passed like static between 2 radio stations. Maya didn't call. Daniel didn't text. They weren't angry. Not exactly. But something had shifted, and neither of them knew how to reach across it. Maya walked into her classroom Friday morning, eyes tired, smile forced. Her students were discussing Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing, but all she could think about was a different kind of misunderstanding, one without a clever resolution. She knew it wasn't fair to blame him for having a past. She had one too, but there was something about the way he talked about Isabel, like the door had never fully closed. And Maya had spent too long waiting at doors that never opened. She wasn't about to do that again. That night her phone buzzed. "Daniel, are you free tomorrow? I'd like to see you." She stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "Maya, maybe. Depends what you want to say." No answer came. Until the next morning. "Daniel, then let's talk." They met in Central Park. Same bench as before. Same light wind brushing through the trees. But this time, no easy laughter, no warm glances, only stillness. He sat down beside her, wearing a navy jacket and an expression she couldn't read. "I've been thinking," he said, "about how this started." Maya folded her hands in her lap. "With a mistake," he nodded, "and a letter." Silence. "I don't want to be someone's second chance," she said, not looking at him. "I want to be someone's first choice." Daniel's brow furrowed. "You are. But you still talk about her like she owns part of your heart," she whispered. He looked down at his hands. "She does," he admitted, "but not the way you think. Not as love. as a scar, something I can't pretend didn't shape me. Maya swallowed. That's not the same as being ready to love someone else. I am ready. But I'm not, she said quietly. Not for this. Not when I keep wondering if I'm just filling the space she left behind. Daniel exhaled sharply. Maya, you read something I never meant anyone to see, she said, and I thought that would be the most exposed I'd ever feel. But this, right now, hurts more. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. I need time, she said. He nodded, slow and solemn. I understand. But he didn't try to stop her when she stood and walked away. That night, Daniel sat alone in his penthouse, staring at the city lights. The letter, her letter, was back on his desk. He unfolded it again. This time, he read it, not as a message from a stranger, but as the voice of someone he could lose if he didn't act. Across the city, Maya curled up on her couch, holding her own journal in her hands. She didn't write anything. She just sat with the silence, trying to figure out whether she'd walked away to protect her heart, or because she was still too afraid to give it. 3 days passed, then 4, then 5, and neither of them reached out. Until a small package appeared on Maya's doorstep. No return address. Inside was a worn, charcoal-colored coat, the one she had mistakenly taken home all those weeks ago. But this time, inside the pocket, there was another letter. Her name was written on the outside. Her breath caught. She opened it with shaking fingers. Maya, I've never been good with timing. I meet the right people at the wrong moments. Or maybe I just don't recognize them until they're already walking away. But your words, the ones I wasn't supposed to read, taught me something. You reminded me how powerful it is when someone says what they're really feeling. You did that, and I couldn't answer you with anything less. So here it is. I'm scared. I haven't moved on from the version of myself that ruined something beautiful once. But I want to. And I want to try with you. If you're willing, I'll meet you at the place where I first saw you. Coat check, Thursday, 7 p.m. If you don't come, I'll understand. I'll carry the regret, not you. But if you do, maybe we can stop writing unsent letters. Daniel. Maya held the letter to her chest, eyes closed. She didn't know if it was too late. She didn't know if she was still too afraid. But she knew one thing. This time, he had spoken first, and she had never wanted to listen more. Will Maya show up at the place where it all began, or leave the story unfinished, just like the letters they both used to write? The Thursday evening air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of rain that hadn't yet fallen. Maya stood outside the same venue where it all began, the one she had walked into weeks ago with nothing but skepticism and borrowed heels. The place where a letter accidentally found a reader and a stranger became something more. Now, she was the one hesitating at the door. It was 6:52 p.m. She had reread Daniel's letter 3 times that day, and every time, the same sentence echoed, "Maybe we can stop writing unsent letters." She clutched the small envelope in her hand. Her own letter, this one meant to be delivered. No secrets this time. Inside the building, everything looked the same. Same marble floors, same dim lighting, even the same soft jazz playing near the bar. But the moment Maya stepped through the entrance, something inside her shifted. She wasn't the woman who had walked in alone and numb weeks ago. She had written her pain, she had spoken her fears, and she had been seen. Whether or not Daniel was here, she owed it to herself to show up. 6:58 p.m. She moved toward the coat check counter, slow, steady, like each step was a question she wasn't sure she wanted answered. He wasn't there yet, only the attendant, distracted by a phone. 6:59 p.m. The envelope in her hand felt heavier than it should, not because of what was written, but because of what it meant, that she was choosing to try again, that she was choosing him. 7:01 p.m. She glanced at the clock. Still no Daniel. A tight knot began to twist in her chest. Maybe he changed his mind. Maybe she was the only one still holding on. She looked down at the envelope, fingers trembling. Then a voice behind her, low, familiar. "You came." She turned, and there he was, Daniel, breathless, coat damp from light rain, hair slightly tousled, eyes locked only on her. "You're late," she whispered, smiling through the nerves. He held up a takeaway coffee cup and offered it sheepishly. "I made a stop. You always stir twice before sipping, right?" She blinked. A laugh slipped through her shock. "You remembered that." "I remember everything about you," he said, stepping closer. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The tension wasn't awkward. It was weight, shared, carried. "I didn't know if you'd come," he said quietly. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "Why did you?" Maya looked down at the envelope in her hand, then placed it into his. "Because I've stopped writing to people who don't listen," she said. "But you listened when you didn't even know me." He looked at the letter, then at her. "Do you want me to read this?" "Not right now," she said. "I want to tell you instead." They walked out together, down the quiet sidewalk, the city glowing softly around them. "I was scared," Maya said. "Of being second. Of being compared to someone I'll never know." "You're not second," Daniel replied. "You're the first person I've ever been honest with. That's more than any label." She stopped walking, looked up at him. "Then be honest now. Do you still think about her?" He didn't look away. "I think about who I was when I lost her, and I don't want to be that man again, because the version of me who stood still back then, he would have let you go." Maya swallowed. "You're not that man?" He stepped even closer, lowering his voice. "No, because I'm standing here, getting rained on, holding a letter that hasn't been read yet, from the only person I want to know what's inside." The first drops of rain began to fall, light, cool, steady. They both laughed at the timing. "I guess this makes it full circle," Maya said. He nodded. Rain, a coat, and a moment we never expected. "Daniel." He looked into her eyes, waiting. "I'm not perfect. I still don't trust easily, but I'm willing to try if you are." He didn't hesitate. "I am." And this time, when he leaned in, she didn't pull away. They kissed like two people who had already lost things before and were ready to stop losing. Not dramatic, not rushed, just quiet, certain. That night, as they sat in his car, hands intertwined, she asked, "Why me?" He turned to her. "You didn't ask me for anything. You didn't try to impress me. You didn't need saving. You just were. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to perform." She smiled, but softly. "I hope we can be enough with just that." He kissed her hand. "We already are." But as the car drove off into the misty night, neither of them saw the figure across the street. A woman who had paused at the corner, umbrella in hand, eyes fixed on the couple through the glass. She didn't speak. She just watched, expression unreadable, then turned and disappeared into the crowd. Who was the woman watching them? And why does her presence threaten the fragile new start Maya and Daniel have just found? The next morning, the rain had stopped, but the clouds hadn't cleared. Maya sat on her apartment floor, legs crossed, letter still unopened in her lap. Daniel hadn't read it yet. He said he wanted to hear her words first. But somehow, she still couldn't bring herself to read his response either. Not until she knew if what they had now could survive whatever came next, because something still lingered in her mind. That woman, the one she saw across the street the night before, the one who had looked at them with a stillness that didn't feel accidental. A part of Maya hoped it was just her imagination, but her gut said otherwise. Daniel called later that afternoon. "Can we meet tonight?" "Where?" she asked. "My place. There's something I want to show you." That evening, as she stepped into his penthouse for the first time since their kiss, she noticed something immediately. The photograph was gone, the one of Isabel that used to sit hidden behind his desk drawer. In its place, only a vase with a single white flower. "I took it down the night I met you," he said, noticing her glance. "But I didn't throw it away. I wasn't ready then." "And now?" He hesitated. "I think I am." He handed her a folded piece of paper. Old. Fragile. It wasn't the letter she had written. It was something else. She unfolded it. "I know why you left, but I needed you to know that I would have stayed, even with your walls, even with your fears. But I guess some people only learn love after they lose it." Isabel Maya looked up, breath caught. "I found this a few weeks ago in a box I thought I'd already thrown away," he said. "She left it the night I walked out." "You never read it?" "I wasn't ready to hear what she had to say," he replied. "Just like I wasn't ready to say what I needed to until I found your letter." Maya folded the note gently. "Is that why she was watching us?" Daniel froze. "You saw her?" Maya nodded slowly. "Last night, across the street." He sat down, the weight of that moment sinking into the room. "She came to my office the day after we met," he said quietly. "She said she heard I was seeing someone, wanted closure, maybe more." Maya's heartbeat quickened. "And?" "I told her the truth, that I cared about someone else, that I wasn't the man she left, and that the woman I'm becoming that man for is you." Maya blinked through a sudden sting in her eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want to taint what we were building with a ghost." She walked toward him, slowly. "We're not building something to hide from the past. We're building something because we've faced it." He stood. "She wanted me to read that letter. I didn't. But I think part of her would be glad I finally did, even if it was too late to fix that love." Maya placed her hands gently on his chest. "And maybe just in time to start this one." They didn't kiss right away. They just stood there, forehead to forehead, both finally unburdened. Two people who had spent years writing letters no one ever read, finally saying the words that mattered out loud. A few weeks later, Maya invited him to her classroom. The kids gasped when they saw him. "That's Daniel Grayson," one whispered. Daniel sat in the back while Maya read aloud the final journal entries her students had written for their end-of-term project. "Letters you'll never send." One student raised her hand. "Miss Alvarez, did anyone ever send one anyway?" Maya smiled. "Yes," she said. "And it changed everything." Daniel met her gaze from the back of the room, and this time, there were no unsent letters between them. 1 year later, the first thing Maya noticed when she walked into the Grayson Foundation's new literacy center wasn't the bright walls or the sound of kids flipping through donated books. It was the photo, framed on the welcome desk, a quiet snapshot of her and Daniel, seated on the floor of her classroom, surrounded by paper, children, and the joyful chaos of words. She smiled, running her fingers lightly along the edge. "Found a good spot for it," said Daniel from behind her, voice softer now, easier. She turned, smiling. "I still don't like being in photos," she teased. "But you like being part of the story," he said. "That's what matters." They walked together down the hall, hand in hand, passing classrooms filled with kids learning to read, write, and, as Maya always encouraged, feel without shame. Daniel had helped fund the center, but it was Maya's idea. Born from her journal, her students, and one old letter in the wrong pocket. "You realize this all started with a coat, right?" she said as they paused outside one of the rooms. He grinned. "And a woman who writes like her soul is trying to breathe." She nudged him gently. "And a man who didn't run this time." Later that night, back in their apartment, small by billionaire standards, but full of music, tea mugs, and books with dog-eared pages, Maya curled up on the couch with a journal in her lap. "I thought you stopped writing those," Daniel said from the kitchen. She smiled. "I don't write unsent letters anymore. Just memories." He joined her on the couch and glanced at the open page. It read, "This time he stayed. This time I believed. Not because he promised, but because he chose me. Every day in small ways. And I chose him back. That's all we ever needed." Daniel leaned his forehead to hers. "I still carry the first letter," he whispered. She looked up. "Why?" "To remind me what almost slipped through my fingers." She reached into the coffee table drawer and pulled something out. His original letter, the one that had been tucked into his coat all that time ago. "You're not the only one who kept something," she said. They laughed. Quiet, warm laughter that felt like peace. Outside, it began to rain, not storming, just soft, like the night they first met. Daniel pulled a blanket over them. Maya leaned her head on his shoulder. And in that silence, no letters, no doubts, no ghosts, they stayed. Together, this time for real. They stopped writing to people who left, and started writing the future, with each other. The end. Now tell me, have you ever held back words that could have changed everything? If you could send one letter to someone from your past, or even to your future self, what would it say? Share your story in the comments below. You never know who needs to hear it.